We are now live. For today's event, if you would like to remain anonymous, you may change your display screen name, but do not use anonymous. If you change your screen name, please make sure that it is not derogatory or illicit in nature. Please note that attendees do not have the ability to turn on or off their cameras. Today's town hall will be providing real-time AI interpretation that supports more than 50 languages, so we can reach diverse audiences. Here's how it works. On your screen, you'll see a QR code and a URL. Scan the QR code or click the URL, then click Attend. Once you have chosen your preferred language, translated captions will appear automatically. Town hall attendees can listen to the translation in real time by unmuting the speaker icon. I will now turn the event over to LASD.
So next slide, please. So I'd like to thank everyone for being here today, joining us on this PREA Town Hall meeting. It's been a privilege to be before you representing the LA County Sheriff's Department and to engage in what is an incredibly important conversation about ensuring safety, dignity, and respect for all individuals in our custody. As we gather here, I want to emphasize our ongoing commitment to the Prison Rape Elimination Act and the principles that it upholds. We recognize the profound impact that sexual abuse and harassment can have on individuals. It's not just a violation of a person's right, but a deep betrayal of trust. Together, we must create an environment where everyone feels safe and supported. Today, we will discuss our ongoing efforts of the PREA standards within our facilities. But more importantly, we will discuss how we can continue to improve and provide accountability. Your insights and experiences and suggestions are invaluable to us. This is a partnership, and we are here to listen and learn from you. Our goal is simple: to foster an atmosphere of transparency and accountability. We want to ensure that survivors feel empowered to come forward, that all allegations are taken seriously, and that we have robust systems in place for prevention, reporting, and response. As we move forward, let's keep in mind the vital role each of us plays in this effort. I'd like to thank you all for your commitment to the cause, and I look forward to our discussion. Let's get started.
At this time, we would like to remind everyone that this town hall may include information and/or material that may be emotionally challenging for some individuals due to its subject matter, including but not limited to Prison Rape Elimination Act, also referred to as PREA. This content is provided with the purpose to seek feedback on how to support the creation of safer reporting environments, practices, and accountability most effectively within the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department facilities. Attendees and viewers are encouraged to prioritize their well-being. For the code of conduct, we would ask that you please conduct yourself as according to the slide that is being displayed. You're reminded to follow the following rules. Please be mindful of everyone that would like to speak and keep comments under 2 minutes. Public comments must relate to the town hall subject, is limited to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department's jurisdiction, and does not include the right to engage in dialogue. We ask that you remain respectful and refrain from profane, personal, threatening, derogatory, demeaning, or abusive statements. Please be respectful of the views expressed by audience, speakers, staff, and LASD staff members, and do not disrupt the orderly conduct of the town hall. A person engaging in conduct that disrupts the town hall is subject to being muted or removed from the town hall. At this time, I will turn it over to our moderator.
Thank you, Tracy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tyson Nelson, and I will be today's moderator. I know we started a few minutes late, so I am going to quickly go through kind of my little preamble here. Just so you know, I'm actually with the County Council's office, but I'm on special assignment with the CEO, which is why you have the CEO background. The slides will be made publicly available after this meeting. There is a lot of information on these slides, and it's impossible for you all to take notes as we move through this just because there's so much information going. So I wanted to let you know up front that the slides will be made publicly available after the meeting. Actually, can you move to the next slide for me? So this right here is a QR code. Remember these? All our kids are using these now for everything. So if you get your phone out and you scan that, you will be taken to a Microsoft form that's a questionnaire. It is anonymous, and the information is sent to the Department of Public Health, who you will hear from later. As already stated, this meeting is about education both ways, from the agencies that will present today, but also from you all, the community, back to the agencies to improve the system. The system cannot improve without feedback. The improvements require also honest, constructive information going both ways from each other. The QR code, as I said, takes you to a Microsoft form. A link will be posted in the chat shortly. And if you do have this PowerPoint slide afterwards, you can still scan that. On the previous slide, there's also the actual website link that you can then click on. We'll leave this up here for a little bit as I go on to some more housekeeping. Just very basic background. PREA is a federal law that sets national standards to prevent, detect, and respond to sexual abuse / sexual assault, as it's also called, and sexual harassment in correctional facilities. The purpose is simple: to protect the safety, dignity, and rights of every human being that is in custody. The rules of PREA, which are often referred to as the PREA standards, were issued by the federal government in 2012. PREA, the law itself, was signed in 2003. These standards require specific tasks and end goals on jails, prisons, and juvenile halls. Now, back to our QR code here. This information does not go directly to the Sheriff's Department, as I previously said. It does go to the Office of Violence Prevention. This form is anonymous. Your name and contact information will not be shared with the Sheriff's Department. Okay, a couple more housekeeping items here, and then we'll get into our panelists here. As previously mentioned, I wanted to mention again, this meeting is being recorded. It is being live streamed on YouTube and will be available and archived on the Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission website. Further, we ask that presenters, when you're speaking, if you feel comfortable, to please have your cameras on so folks can see who is speaking. If you are not part of the presentation, we ask that you turn your camera off to just avoid distractions on the screen. And we also ask the panelists during public comment if they could turn their cameras on so the community can see you. I also wanted to mention that services available for rape crisis centers are available to you, during this meeting, and are available to you at any time as needed. This information can be very triggering for very traumatic life experiences that some of us have had. And we wanted to let you know that information is available. It will be posted in the chat as well. Some of our providers will be speaking later today. You may have seen now that some of the cameras have come off, that we have a sign language interpreter. That information on how to engage will be posted in the chat. We also use Wordly from translation services so that it can be heard in the language of your choosing. via WebEx. Okay, that was a lot. If we can move to our next slide, that is the strategic. Thank you. So I'm not going to read you each of these. It'll be on the slide as we're already kind of behind. I want to make sure we get back on schedule. But the strategic vision here for this meeting is to let the community know where PREA compliance is at, where PREA implementation is at, but it really boils down to the commitment of the county and the sheriff's department from hearing from the community, for keeping our jail safe, keeping everyone in that jail safe, and to be transparent and how they do that in the process. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. So we are now going to hear from the Sheriff's Assistant Director, who is the PREA Coordinator, John Barkley, and Sergeant Ryan Vaccaro, discussing the current reporting practices and accountability. John and Ryan, floor is yours.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Good afternoon. The Office of PREA Compliance team consists of 16 individuals who are dedicated to promoting sexual safety in our jails. These positions are funded by the LA County Board of Supervisors. You can see in this organization chart that the commitment to prevent sexual abuse and sexual harassment in the jails comes from the top, with Assistant Sheriff over Custody, Paula Tokar. Next slide. The PREA team receives no federal funding. The federal cuts or federal shutdown have no impact on the Sheriff's Department to prevent and detect sexual abuse and sexual harassment within our jail facilities. The Sheriff's Department is committed to the mission of sexual safety for those incarcerated in our care. Next slide. The Office of PREA Compliance has resources and processes we use to accomplish our mission. We provide training for the leadership and line staff to ensure that our resident population knows the resources that are available to them. We're monitored by the Office of Inspector General, who have staff trained as auditors of the PREA standards. The Office of PREA Compliance conducts PREA inspections at all our jail facilities. Next slide. We have created a variety of ways in which a resident can report sexual harassment or sexual abuse. They can verbally tell any Sheriff's Department staff member, medical staff member, chaplain, volunteer, or contractor, and all of these workers and volunteers are trained what to do when they receive this information. They can call Crime Stoppers from the resident's phone and do not have to use their identification number. A report can be made by a family member, a friend, the OIG, the ACLU, civil brand commissioners, and any other monitoring agencies who will report it to the Sheriff's Department. Next slide. Residents can also use grievance forms seen here that are readily available throughout our custody facilities. Residents fill out the grievance form and either hand it to a staff or place them in a secured collection box. The collection boxes are emptied once per shift by a sergeant who timestamps the grievance and reviews them. Now, one of our PREA compliance manager, Sergeant Vaccaro, is going to explain the process in more detail. Next slide.
Thank you, Assistant Director Barkley, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ryan Vaccaro. The Sheriff's Department has a zero tolerance for sexual abuse and sexual harassment. Our team is dedicated to ensuring our residents know we have a zero tolerance policy and know how to get help when they need it. All PREA allegations are documented and processed promptly, thoroughly, and objectively. We continuously train our Sheriff's Department staff to immediately report all allegations of sexual abuse and sexual harassment, regardless of their opinion of the allegation's validity. Our team continuously trains all Sheriff's Department sergeants to enter all grievances, again, regardless of their validity and they get entered into our database. So what does that mean? First, a floor sergeant either receives a grievance form or a verbal report of sexual abuse or sexual harassment. Second, that floor sergeant conducts the initial inquiry and enters the pre-allegation into the Sheriff's Department pre-alert database. Our database automatically emails a summary of the pre-allegation to the Office of Inspector General and to Sheriff Department leadership and to the PREA compliance manager. Now, what is a PREA compliance manager? We call them PCMs for short. Our team, the PREA team, we have 6 PCMs. A PCM is a sergeant who has completed specialized PREA training to handle investigating sexual abuse and sexual harassment. It is important to note that every staff on inmate pre-allegation is investigated by a PCM promptly, thoroughly, and objectively. At the completion of the PCM's investigation, the PCM sends the results of the investigation to the facility's captain. Next slide, please. If the pre-allegation is determined to be true, or there is a chance it is true, the PREA team conducts a sexual abuse incident review with the Office of the Inspector General and the facility's captain in attendance. During this incident review, we look for areas that can be improved so we can prevent similar incidents from happening again. Once a pre-investigation has been completed, the PREA team lets the victim know the results of the investigation, either in person or through the U.S. Postal Service. And that's our corrective action process and our resident notification process. Next slide, please. The PREA team publishes the statistics related to our investigations on the World Wide Web. If you go to the Sheriff's Department website at lasd.org, you can find all of our statistical data as well as the definitions of some of our specialized terminology. And that's what's on the screen right now. You can see our statistics as well as the definitions I just mentioned. Next slide, please. The foundation of our system is that we take every case seriously. So I train my staff to pretend it is their sister or brother who has been a victim. And since we wouldn't want our brother or sister to be punished for reporting they were sexually abused or sexually harassed, the PREA team meets with every resident who has reported sexual abuse and asks them if anyone has retaliated against them. So if Resident Smith reports that Deputy Jones touched him inappropriately, we make sure Resident Smith has not lost any privileges, food, or is being bothered in any way due to filing that pre-allegation. This retaliation prevention process is tracked in our PREA database, and it's governed by the PREA standards. Next slide, please. The PREA team continuously trains every Sheriff's Department employee and contractor to report PREA allegations to a sergeant immediately. We ensure everyone knows the Sheriff Department has a zero tolerance for sexual abuse and sexual harassment. One of our tools is our annual training video that goes to all Sheriff's Department employees. Another tool is our zero tolerance posters. The PREA team places these zero tolerance posters. They're conspicuously displayed in every housing area and patrol station jail. Next slide. And here's a sample of, well, this is the poster. We have it in English and we have it in Spanish. Our zero tolerance posters tell our residents how they can report sexual abuse and sexual harassment, and how our residents can get free trauma-informed care through a non-recorded and free phone service. Next slide. We understand it is challenging for our residents to process everything when they arrive at our housing facilities. We've created another PREA resource to ensure sexual safety of the residents in our care. Our PREA comprehensive education form is handed to every arrestee when they are booked at a patrol station. The arresting officer or the jailer reads the PREA information with the arrestee. The message of this form is that they have the right to be safe from sexual abuse and sexual harassment, and it tells them how to report pre-allegations and how to get victim support services. Next slide. The arrestees and the officers sign this signature page, the one you're seeing now, which is the signature page of our PREA Comprehensive Education Form. The signature page is stored forever in the resident's booking packet. We retain a copy of this signature page, and the resident is given a copy of the material to take with them. Next slide. We've created another PREA resource called the Zero Tolerance Pamphlet. The message of this form is that they have, again, it's that they have a right to be safe from sexual abuse and sexual harassment. And it tells them how to report PREA allegations and how to get victim support services. These pamphlets are conspicuously displayed in every resident housing area and patrol station. We regularly go through our facilities and make sure they are available. Next slide. This is our pamphlet. This is also available in 10 other languages. So if our residents need a copy of this, we provide it upon request. Next slide. And if anybody would like to get a better look at this, we can provide that later. Next slide. So the Sheriff's Department has a new policy that requires Sheriff's Department staff to regularly conduct town hall meetings in all resident housing areas. Sheriff's Department staff review the PREA pamphlet during this meeting. Staff are required to ask if the residents have any PREA questions or issues. And if a PREA issue is identified, that Sheriff's Department member who's hosting that town hall meeting is required to forward that issue to one of our 6 PREA compliance managers. Next slide. The Sheriff's Department offers trauma-informed care services to our residents. What is trauma-informed care? It is a free and confidential phone service for victims of sexual abuse and sexual harassment. The Sheriff's Department residents who are victims of sexual abuse are also offered free medical services and free victim advocate services. Next slide. With help from our partners at Just Attention International, the PREA team created 3 PREA information videos. These videos have been translated into Spanish and also interpreted into American Sign Language. The Sheriff's Department plays these videos on a daily basis in every housing area, reception area, and patrol station jail. These videos let our residents know there is a zero tolerance for sexual abuse, sexual harassment at the Sheriff's Department. The videos tell our residents how they can report, how they can get victim support services. Shortly, we will play one of our 3 PREA resident information videos. Please know, everyone, please know that Sheriff's Department PREA team created all of these PREA services and systems to help ensure the sexual safety of our residents. We need the community's help. We need your help to make these services and systems better. Next slide.
You have an absolute right to be safe from sexual abuse and sexual harassment.
And it is Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department's absolute responsibility to uphold your right to be safe. I'm Vanessa, and this is my colleague, Edward. Edward and I are victim advocates. We do not work for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Our job is to provide support and information to people who have experienced sexual abuse at any time in their lives.
We know that being in jail can be scary, especially if you've never been locked up before. We've all heard stories about what it's like to be in jail, but here's something important to keep in mind. Every single person has a right to be safe from sexual abuse and sexual harassment, and that does not change simply because you are in jail. In fact, there are federal rules in place that are designed specifically to protect your rights. In this video, we're going to talk about what the rules say about your rights and about the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department's responsibilities to keep you safe. Remember, No one ever deserves to be sexually abused, regardless of what crime that person may have committed. One of the jail's responsibilities is to create a culture where everyone feels safe and respected, and that means creating a culture of zero tolerance. Zero tolerance means that even one incident of sexual abuse is too many. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has zero tolerance policies that clearly state that it does not tolerate sexual abuse and sexual harassment, and that includes sexual abuse by other incarcerated people as well as by staff. It also means that incarcerated people and staff understand what sexual abuse and sexual harassment are and how to stay safe. And it means that the leadership and staff at this jail take every single case of sexual abuse and sexual harassment seriously.
Bottom line, sexual abuse and sexual harassment are not tolerated in this facility. Sexual abuse and sexual harassment are never okay, no exceptions. While there are certain people on staff who are in charge of setting the zero tolerance policy, it is important to remember that it is every person's responsibility on staff to create a safe facility. Now let's talk a bit about what we mean by sexual abuse and sexual harassment. Sexual abuse is any unwanted sexual contact. Sexual abuse is any sexual activity or contact that is not wanted or agreed to. It can include being touched, penetrated, or being forced to do something sexual to someone else. Other words for sexual abuse are sexual assault or rape.
It is also sexual abuse when someone is threatened or tricked into sexual activity, or is drunk, high, asleep, or unconscious when the sexual activity occurs. It is also sexual abuse if someone pressures or convinces another person to have sex, or pressures someone to have sex with them in exchange for goods or protection. We want to make something very clear. It is illegal for staff, contractors, or volunteers to have sexual contact of any kind with someone who is in custody.
Now let's talk about sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is when someone says or does sexual things that make you feel uncomfortable or unsafe. It could be words or gestures of a sexual nature, like comments about your body or even the way you dress. It is also sexual harassment when someone insults, teases, or makes unkind comments about your gender, how you express your gender identity, or your sexual orientation. Sexual harassment can come from others in custody or from staff. Any sexual comments from staff, contractors, or volunteers, no matter how they are meant or whether or not it bothers the person the comments are made to, are sexual harassment. Again, you have a right to be safe from sexual abuse and sexual harassment, period. Remember that you have a right to be safe while you are in jail, and it is the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department's responsibility to uphold that right. Let's talk a bit more in depth about some of the other rights you have and what the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is doing to keep you safe.
You have a right to be housed safely. When you arrived at the jail, you were asked a lot of personal questions. It may have felt uncomfortable. This information is used to make sure that you are placed in housing where you will be safest. If you kept some information private and decide later that you want to share it, you can tell the facility's PREA compliance manager, a sergeant, or a medical or mental health provider either verbally or in writing. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department will use that additional information to determine if your housing placement is still the safest place for you. The more information you provide, the easier it will be for the jail to keep you safe. Also know that this information is kept private and only shared with staff who need to know.
You have a right to make a report safely. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department wants to know if something has happened to you so that they can help. If you do not report, they will not know, and it may be harder to get you help right away. You can even choose to not use your name or the name of the person who sexually abused you when you report, if that's what feels safest. You get to choose how much you share. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has multiple ways to make a report of sexual abuse or sexual harassment, and they will make sure that you are free from retaliation, like threats, intimidation, or physical harm, for making a report or participating in an investigation. You can make a report to any staff member, contractor, or volunteer. You can also call Crime Stoppers by dialing *21 on any phone. You can also contact the Office of the Inspector General using the mailing address or phone number posted in the facility.
Remember, staff want to know and they will take all reports of sexual abuse and sexual harassment seriously. They will investigate and they will tell you the outcome of the investigation.
After you make a report, you have a right to free medical and mental health care. If you do not wish to make a report or give the name of the person who sexually abused you, you still have a right to medical and mental health treatment.
Healing takes time, and it's a process that can be scary and overwhelming. But with support, you can heal. You have the right to talk confidentially to a rape crisis advocate, people like Vanessa or myself. You can contact an advocate by dialing *25 or *26 from any inmate phone. The calls are not recorded, and you do not have to use your inmate PIN. You can even reach out to an advocate about sexual abuse that may have happened at some other point in your life.
You can also reach out to an advocate by writing a letter. Mailing addresses for local advocates can be found on the PREA posters throughout the jail. Edward and I cannot stress enough your right to be safe from sexual abuse and sexual harassment while you're in the jail.
But if something should happen, you have the right to report sexual abuse and sexual harassment safely. You have the right to get help. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has a responsibility to protect you from sexual abuse and sexual harassment. They have a responsibility to help you report safely and to protect you from retaliation. And they have a responsibility to ensure that you can get help if you have been hurt.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We are now going to, for those following along with the agenda, we're now moving on to agenda item number 5. We are now going to hear from our panelists. First, we're going to hear from the Director of the Office of Violence Prevention for the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, Andrea Welsing. Andrea?
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here and to share a little bit about our office with you. My name is Andrea Welsing. I am the Director of the Los Angeles County Office of Violence Prevention, and we are housed in the Department of Public Health. I want to share a little bit about the work of our office and really highlight the Los Angeles County Sexual Assault Council, which is housed in our office, and then share a few resources with you. So next slide, please. So the Office of Violence Prevention was established by the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors in 2019 to bring together county departments and community partners to create a common vision and really to coordinate efforts for a violence-free Los Angeles County. Our mission is to strengthen collaboration, capacity, and partnerships to prevent multiple forms of violence, including sexual violence, and to promote healing across all communities in Los Angeles County. Next slide, please. We have a number of strategic initiatives housed within this office. And on this slide, you can see 6 of those early implementation priorities. I'm not going to read through them all to save time, but these slides will be available to you, and you can learn more about our office both through our website and then by reading through the slides. Here, I just want to highlight we do have an open data portal where we collect data on all forms of violence, and we want to share that data that we receive, whether it's from law enforcement, the medical examiner, from hospital data that we get, our surveys. We want to share that with county and community partners. We have a trauma prevention initiative. We have a trauma-informed care initiative, crisis response programs, as well as part of our work is shifting the narrative about violence and trauma. Next slide, please. Newer initiatives that now reside in this office, and it's a focus of the work we do, is around firearm safety, including the distribution of gun safety locks to anyone who wants them, at least 2 locks free of charge, no questions asked, youth suicide prevention work, a family assistance program, gender-based violence prevention, which includes an investment of $2 million to prevent gender-based violence, and the Sexual Assault Council, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit more detail. Next slide. Next slide, please. So a little bit of the background of the Los Angeles County Sexual Assault Council is that what preceded the establishment of that council within the Office of Violence Prevention through a board motion in October 2022 was that there was an informal sexual assault council that existed in the county from 2001 to 2006. This group helped to build support systems. It developed sexual assault response team standards. It advocated to change the law around notification of DNA kit testing, supported a new rape kit lab at Cal State LA, and identified practices to reduce the DNA kit backlog. This was a voluntary group that came together to do all of that work. But there was a move and a report by the Los Angeles County Commission for Women that shared a report with the Board of Supervisors that resulted in a board motion that formalized the Sexual Assault Council and placed it here in the Office of Violence Prevention with staff and a budget of $1.76 million. Next slide, please. The purpose of the Sexual Assault Council is really to assemble multiple sectors and individuals with lived experience that have a connection to sexual violence so that we can better coordinate across systems, facilitate communication between those systems, and create alignment between public safety agencies, healthcare providers, legal systems, survivors, county and community partners that will allow for better service collaboration and integration, and therefore better support survivors and more adequately meet the needs of the community. Next slide, please. In May of this year, 2025, we identified 17 members that sit on the Sexual Assault Council. These meetings, though, are open to all. First meeting was held in June of 2025. And really the role of the Sexual Assault Council, which is led by our executive director, Nicole Paris, is to assist in the development of an LA County Sexual Assault Strategic Work Plan, provide guidance and recommendations on needs, barriers, and opportunities as it relates to sexual assault services, policies, and practices across the spectrum of prevention, intervention, and healing. Serve as a liaison to local networks, communities, and coalitions, and to identify systemic entrenched barriers, develop and help implement recommendations to improve the sexual assault response, increase access to support, and strengthen prevention strategies. Next slide, please. So as I said, the Sexual Assault Council has been meeting since June of 2025. Since then, they've adopted charter and bylaws, and they've formed 4 ad hoc committees, including one that's focused on data, one that's focused on education and outreach, one on resource mapping, which is really looking at currently available services and resources across LA County, and a committee that's working on strategic planning to develop SAC's mission statement, vision, and values, and to create a standardized definition of sexual violence, and then to look at specific strategies and activities that will be implemented through the Sexual Assault Council. So next slide, please. And I just want, you will get a copy of these slides. And what I wanted to invite everyone here to do is, if you're interested in participating, there will be information as part of the slide deck as to those meetings and If you want to participate in those meetings in any way, there will be a list of the meetings on our website, and you're welcome to join. Last, I want to share with you is that we are a resource. Principally, we are here to be a resource for Los Angeles County residents and survivors of violence in particular. We have many resources available on our website. We have data available on our website. And just if there is any way we can either support the work that you're doing or support you as a survivor or as a community member, we want to serve as that resource. So thank you very much for allowing me to share. And that is the end of my slides, and I'll turn it back over to you, Tyson.
Thank you. If we could move to the next slide. Our next panelist is the co-vice chair of the Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission, Mr. Luis S. Garcia. Mr. Garcia, go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Luis S. Garcia, and I am co-vice chair of the Los Angeles County Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission. And I come to this conversation as a licensed clinical social worker, a lifelong Los Angeles County resident, and as someone, excuse me, my camera, and as a Los Angeles County resident, and as someone who has experienced incarceration in both the LA County and state systems. My personal and professional experiences are grounded in shaping how I understand prevention, safety, and correctional accountability. I hold one of 9 commission seats that were created by the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors on January 12, 2016, with the mission to improve transparency and accountability with respect to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And as part of our mission, we provide robust opportunities for community engagement, and we conduct ongoing analysis and oversight of LASD's policies, practices, and procedures. Our commission also provides advice to the Board of Supervisors, the Sheriff's Department, and the public. Our commission has had a long-standing history of providing oversight of LASD regarding issues of public safety, including the Prison Rape Elimination Act, also, as we heard today, PREA. In 2017, our commission requested that the Sheriff's Department and the Los Angeles County Office of Inspector General, OIG, present an update on the status of the department's PREA compliance before our full commission and at our public meeting. Since that time, at the direction of the Board of Supervisors, our commission has worked with the OIG and the LASD in reporting back to the board on the Sheriff's Department's progress in formulating a plan for PREA compliance. Our commission's PREA recommendations to the LASD have included last year that in 2024, that the LASD revise all their quarterly and annual PREA reports to include general definitions and acronyms for terms commonly used to aid in community members' understanding of what is represented in their reports. In 2025, that the LASD provide a written report back to the board, the commission, and the OIG with a timeline and identify a department contact for prioritizing PREA compliance efforts, fully implementing the PREA risk assessment classification tool, and developing and implementing a plan for standardized distribution and posting of PREA information materials across all custody facilities, including posters, pamphlets, and first responder cards, and improving the accuracy of PREA reports. On October 23rd of 2025, LASD Assistant Director John Barkley presented updates on the LASD's PREA statistics at our commission meeting. During the meeting, commissioners inquired about the LASD's updates to PREA statistics when data is listed as pending on reports, the number of hoops or steps that an investigation would have to go through or has to go through, and the average timeline for processing PREA complaints, among other things. Lastly, the Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission will continue its efforts to work with the LASD to comply with PREA standards. and improve conditions for individuals in the county jail system. We encourage members of the public to learn more about our commission at coc.lacounty.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll now turn to Yvette Lozano, who is the Deputy Executive Director for Peace Over Violence. Yvonne?
Thank you, Tyson. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Just to introduce Peace Over Violence. Peace Over Violence is dedicated nonprofit local rape crisis center that is dedicated to providing support services to survivors of sexual abuse, both inside and outside of custody. We have a long-term relationship with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department to ensure that individuals who are in custody have access to trauma-informed supportive services. For the past year and before that, we have worked in collaboration with the Sheriff's Department to provide these services. Currently, these services are being supported and funded by the Inmate Welfare Committee. Next slide, please. At Peace Over Violence, we use an empowerment model that focuses on healing and recovery. This is done by providing essential services to all community members. We have worked to provide confidential trauma-informed crisis intervention to incarcerated survivors of sexual abuse. This working relationship ensures that survivors' rights are respected and supported within the custody system. If you could see on the slide, any individual that experiences sexual violence can dial *25 and connect with the Peace Over Violence advocate. There is another rape crisis, Strength United, that is also working alongside to provide these services at other facilities. Currently, we're operating a 9 to 1 p.m. Monday through Thursday, where advocates are available to support callers. Advocates listen without assumptions or judgment. They foster a trusting relationship with callers and validate their experience and guide them through the reporting process. This is all done confidential, and survivors are able to connect with the support services once released, if that does happen. Empowering each individual by presenting options and resources for safety and reporting without any pressure. Survivors are treated with dignity and respect. During non-operational hours for this hotline, there is an opportunity for callers to leave their booking number, their name and information, and the types of services they're seeking, and an advocate/case manager will contact them via mail. Next slide. A part of the program also includes some essential workshops that we are currently providing at the MCJ K69G unit. These are trauma-informed educational workshops for participants to take part of voluntarily. Some of these workshops provide us an opportunity to build trust with community that have experienced sexual violence. We take an opportunity to inform about their rights, discuss safety options, and access resources. This helps individuals promote some sense of safety or mental health and also connection. Can I have the next slide, please? Some of the feedback that we have received during our participation in these workshops has been very essential and important for us to really kind of consider in this process as we're trying to get feedback to improve reporting processes for everyone in the system. I do have something to share from some of the participants. Some of the participants in this last group shared that there could be some improvements in reporting. They shared that while grievance forms are available, there is not enough privacy when calling the hotline or reporting sexual violence, which makes it very difficult to feel safe in sharing personal and sensitive information. Participants also expressed that the presence of too many people nearby can discourage open communication and reporting. Because of this lack of privacy, some individuals wait for trauma-informed classes that Peace Over Violence offers to share their experiences, which is only offered once a month. But these sessions are not held frequently, so we make every effort to have these resources available. The participants also emphasize the importance of being believed and taken seriously when reporting concerns, rather than being dismissed, made fun of, or accused of looking for trouble. They believe that assuring confidentiality, respect, and genuine support would make reporting safer and more accessible for everyone. Next slide. During this process, we want to make sure that survivors that are experiencing sexual violence understand and know their rights. They have the right to report incidents of sexual abuse. They have the right to feel safe and supported through the process. They have the right to have an advocate, access to sexual assault forensic exams for evidence collection, along with an advocate being present and supporting them through that process. And upon post-release, any connection to support services offered by many of the organizations that you're going to hear from today, along with Peace Over Violence. Next slide. So in other words, we want to make sure that we're obviously providing confidential and accessible reporting platforms, which have been implemented, but taking in the feedback, we want to see what's working and what's not. We want to make sure that we allow access to external advocates, such as rape crisis centers and sexual assault advocates, to work alongside survivors and help them through their healing process. We want to ensure that there is survivor-centered response protocols in place with trauma-informed staff, contractors, and volunteers. We want to provide ongoing emotional support, education on rights and empowerment, staff leadership, accountability, and oversight, and most importantly, believe survivors. To make reporting truly safe and accessible, we must ensure privacy, consistency, and compassion in every step of the process. Implementing more confidential channels and regular trauma-informed sessions will empower individuals to speak out and without fear, and helping build a system rooted in trust and accountability. I strongly encourage you, if you have anyone that you know of that has experienced sexual abuse, that start to 5 number, start to 6 number are very essential numbers to pass on to your loved ones. If you need help or you have experienced any incidents of sexual abuse, I encourage you to call 213-623-626-3393. That is a confidential Peace Over Violence LA Rape and Battering Hotline. Next slide. Thank you, Tyson.
Of course. Thank you, Yvette. Now we'll turn to the Interim Executive Director of the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, or ARC, Rob Warrenoff. Rob. I see the ARC on here. If they're speaking, they are still muted. So I see you guys scrambling. That's okay. Okay, so I think we'll come back for the sake of time. We'll move on to Linda McFarland, the Executive Director of JDI, Just Detention International. And Rob, we will circle back to your group after Linda. Oh, perfect. Okay. Hi, Linda. Great to see you.
Hi there. Hi, Tyson. Good to see you. Hello, everyone. And I'll also be joined by my colleagues, Edward and Layla. And we have a few slides as well. So hi, everyone. I'm Linda McFarland. I'm the Executive Director of Just Detention International. We're a health and human rights organization that works to end sexual abuse in all forms of detention. And I want to thank the county agencies that are present and Supervisor Hahn for creating this opportunity to share and making it a reality. I also want to thank our community partners who are contributing, but most of all, I want to thank the survivors who are willing to share their experiences for everyone's benefit today. So as we've heard, the motion and this town hall, it's really about safety at its core, community safety. We heard from the PREA team and Peace Over Violence and others about the really good work that's been done and the policies that are in place. And I think from there, the work that we still have to do and we have to keep pushing on is about culture and about trauma. I think if we really want people to be truly safe, and this is certainly JDI's position and a lot of our work, we have to address the trauma that's often inherent inside all detention facilities, including jails. Can we go on to the next slide? And when we talk about trauma, it refers to both the event or events where someone experiences a combination of terror and lack of control, and the lasting effects on the person or people who were harmed. But that trauma also stays within the community and institution where it happened. And those reactions can be a result of trauma reactions, can be a result of witnessing or consistently being exposed to trauma as well as directly experiencing it. Next slide, please. Trauma-informed words has become something of a buzzword, but the concept and its applications are still important to understand and look at. And what it means is that an institution realizes and understands the prevalence of trauma, recognizes and then takes into account how trauma affects all the individuals involved. So that's the jails, the people who are incarcerated, community, family, and every part of the workforce as well. And then we put that knowledge into practice. We make sure that policies and practices and programs are developed and implemented through that lens of preventing future trauma and addressing the trauma that's already there. So, we've heard making reporting safer. It's really important. And at the same time, I think any strategy that focuses primarily on reporting is going to fall short, because sexual abuse is one of the most underreported crimes in any area, wherever it happens, but particularly at jails. And if Yvette shared, but also we hear at JDI from survivors about folks not reporting from reasons ranging from fear of retaliation to shame, to messages that they receive, say, during intake, or to having seen others report and nothing happens. Next slide, please. And I think, the very nature of trauma works against swift reporting by survivors who are often in shock and disbelief and terror in the immediate aftermath. So it's incumbent on all of us who work on this to make sure that the environment as a whole is a place where reporting is possible, not only by that person who's most vulnerable. So when we talk about accountability, it has to be about a real culture of zero tolerance that spreads beyond the PREA team. As my colleagues said in the video that you played, and Sergeant Vaccaro and Mr. Barkley said as well in their comments, it's about a full culture in the jails and what we as a community expect and want it to be. And so I think inside the jails, we have to look at the language we use in daily interactions, how and where searches are done, including what staff say during searches. Is the intake done in a place and in a manner that there's some privacy to answer these sensitive questions, and in a way that people can understand when they first come in and are likely in a great deal of distress? What's the culture like related to staff who report, and our staff members trained as bystander intervention rather? Are survivors afforded an advocate? We heard Yvette mention that too, during all stages of the investigation. And are investigators trained in trauma-informed interviewing for sexual assault survivors specifically? I think also, how is prevention used? Is it seen as holistic? How is it about the culture as a whole? And are there trauma-informed programs and support available for both incarcerated people and jail staff at a frequency that's really going to make a difference? I think looking at sort of this slide, and we have to drill down into each of these questions and work on developing practices in collaboration with survivors and other formerly incarcerated or currently incarcerated people, if we really want to make the jails a place where people can report and there's true accountability. And I think, as always, it's better to hear from survivors themselves. So if you could go to the next slide, and I'm honored to introduce my colleague Edward, who you already met in the video, and he's going to be sharing a statement from Frank, a member of JDI's Survivor Council, who's not able to be here. And then right after that, we'll hear briefly from my colleague Layla about their experiences. Edward, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent.
I'm Edward, and yes, I'm going to share a statement from my friend Frank. I remember how much the incident affected him, and I know that his healing journey has been long. He's doing well today, and while he couldn't be here, he did want to share his experience. So I'm going to read the statement. It says, "My name is Frank Mendoza, and I'm a resident of Portland, Oregon, and a former Los Angeles resident. I want to express my gratitude to the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department for organizing this town hall, and to the nonprofit organizations, advocates, and other allies represented here today who are working to ensure that facilities are safe and free of sexual abuse. In 2006, I lost my job at a law firm in Irvine. I had stopped for a drink with coworkers, and then while waiting for a carpool, a police officer accused me of loitering. He said I didn't belong there and didn't believe I had worked there. Smelling the alcohol on my breath, he arrested me. I was brought to the Orange County Jail and then transferred to Twin Towers. I was terrified, mostly of the other people in custody, but it turned out I had more reason to fear the staff. Officers at the jail repeatedly harassed me because I was openly gay. After one officer made a particularly offensive remark, I commented to the person next to me that the officer was insecure, which he overheard. The officer then threatened me, and shortly afterward, he made good on that threat. He came into my cell and beat me and sexually assaulted me. I was then left in the cell naked, bloodied, and completely humiliated. I tried to report what happened. First, I told the officer on the next shift, who found me on the floor of my cell, and all he did was order me to get dressed. And that was the norm. Officers didn't tell on one another. And the person in the cell next to me also kept quiet out of fear that he would be next. Not only could I not report, but I also was denied help. No forensic exam, no counseling, not even treatment for my injuries. And then when I was released 2 weeks later, I went to LAPD to report the rape. But without a forensic exam, it was impossible to build a criminal case. Today, I live in Oregon. I spent nearly 2 decades working through the pain and processing the trauma. I'm healing, but the trauma is still there. It's clear the county still has a lot of work to do to ensure the safety of people in detention. At the same time, the fact that such a hearing is happening is evidence to me of a culture shift and that people are listening. So thank you for listening to my story. I hope that my testimony and the testimony of other survivors and advocates can help ensure we have a system where every single person in LA County's custody is safe.
And I'll go ahead. My name is Layla Dost. I'm a program officer with Just Detention International and a member of the JDI Survivor Council. I was arrested during a mental health crisis in 2020 and taken to a county jail in Northern California. While in custody, I experienced staff sexual abuse and sexual harassment from other incarcerated people. Even though I was in another jurisdiction, I know my experiences are similar to what we hear from incarcerated survivors in facilities across the state and nation. I wanted to just highlight my experience during the PREA screening process and booking. I was in a state of psychosis when I was brought to jail. I was out of touch with reality, and I could not understand why staff in booking were suddenly asking invasive questions about my gender, sexuality, and sexual abuse history. The questions were really confusing to me, and I actually thought that I was being sexually harassed by staff. Because of this, I did not trust the motives of staff, and I answered no to almost every question, despite meeting multiple criteria putting me at risk for sexual abuse, including my sexual orientation, gender identity, being a survivor of past sexual abuse, and having a mental health disability. I do not know whether answering accurately would have kept me safe while I was in jail, but I want to underscore that for individuals arrested during a mental health crisis, the screening process may be confusing and responsiveness may be extremely difficult. This is important to keep in mind due to the disproportionate arrest rates for mentally ill individuals. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI, estimates that between 25% and 40% of all mentally ill Americans will be jailed or incarcerated at some point in their lives. This is compared to about 7% of the general population. To put this in perspective, the National Institute of Mental Health states that about 23% of the US population lives with mental illness. So this is a significant demographic of people who are also more likely to be arrested while experiencing mental health symptoms. As such, consideration should be made around accessibility when screening for the risk of sexual abuse, with staff checking in to ensure understanding, and if needed, waiting until a person in a mental health crisis has stabilized before continuing the screening process and making housing decisions that may affect that person's safety. And that's all from me. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Layla and Edward. And yeah, that's it. That's it from JDI. If you would like to just pop to the next screen, there's contact information for me and for JDI if anybody would like to take it down. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda and team, and thank you for sharing your experience. So I believe ARC is reconnecting. And so we will move to the next slide on there to give them more time to reconnect. We intended to hear from the Young Women's Freedom Center and Sister Warriors Freedom Coalition today as well. Unfortunately, an unforeseen scheduling conflict popped up. They could not be here, but we do want to thank them for expressing interest and the work that they do in the community. And I believe we will move on to the Center for Health Justice. And after this presentation, hopefully we can go back to ARC. I'd like to introduce Ron Osario, Administrative Director for the Center for Health Justice. Ron?
Good afternoon. I work for Center for Health Justice. I have been with Center for Health Justice since 2000 when they first started. We work inside Men's Central Jail, Linwood, CRDF. We're across the whole system. We do education inside. Our education is health-based education. A lot of it has to do with sexual health, STDs, HIV, the common sexual problems that we deal with inside. A lot of questions. We work a lot with the transgender population. We have a support group. It's called TBOP, which is Taking Back Our Power, and it deals strictly with the transgender ladies and how they're interact with inside. So we deal quite a bit with issues that they have. We work strongly with the Sheriff's Department on correcting any problems that come up. We learned a long time ago when I first started that if you approach the Sheriff's Department with a problem, but also with suggestions on ways to resolve the problem, it moves very quickly and very smoothly. If you just come in dumping problems on them, then they have to find somebody to handle the problem, work all the problems out, and it's a much slower process. So if you got good ideas to take to them, they're very receptive. We've worked with them so long that it's common knowledge for us we're able to call and talk to an officer. So we're directly across the street from Men's Central Jail. So when the inmates get out, are released from IRC, they have to go by our office to get to the bus, and we let them drop in. We have a drop-in center. They'll stop, they'll use the phone. A lot of them will use the phone to call a ride to pick them up, or we do have limited supplies on giving them, we call it a release kit, and it's just giving them simple shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrushes, supplies to get them by, because quite a few of them are homeless. So we work with them to try to solve the problem, but we're always there helping them out. And that's it for me, Tyson.
Thank you, sir. I believe we have Rob reconnected. So, hi, Rob.
Hi, Tyson, can you hear? Thank you.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. So I'm sorry about that, folks. So I am Rob Bornoff. I'm the interim executive director here at the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, ARC, and I am joined by my colleagues. Sorry, we're switching this around. Carlos Cervantes, who's our director of member services, and Pam Thompson, who is our associate director of member services. And just a real quick sort of overview of ARC. We started as an organization a little over a dozen years ago by a group of people who were incarcerated, who, upon getting released, didn't have a lot of reentry services, didn't have a lot of support systems. So our founder, Scott Budnick, pulled a bunch of people together. Carlos was one of those founding members of ARC. Over the intervening dozen or so years, we've grown into an organization that has about almost 190 staff. We have a very large office here in Los Angeles in Echo Park. We have an office in Sacramento. We have fire camps in Pine Grove up in Northern California and Ventura, and a number of housing programs. Some of the programming that we support, we have workforce development programming. We have a youth department that we're building out sort of by the day. We provide mental health services to our members. We have a research and evaluation component, and a whole range of services, including our inside programming. And we have a Hope and Redemption team of formerly incarcerated people who go back into all of the state prisons throughout California and work with people who are currently incarcerated. And we also have a team of what we call credible messengers, of people who had been incarcerated and go in and work in the juvenile facilities and work with young people. And then, of course, sort of the hub of our work is our engagement with member services. So we'd like to introduce just a little bit of a very short video. It's about a 2-minute video where a young woman who came out of incarcerated came to ARC for some services, and you will hear from Clarissa Gutierrez right now.
I was coming here, getting time basically because I had nowhere else to be. They provide lunch, so I have money for food and stuff, so I would come over here. I'm like awkward when it comes to new migrants, but the first day I right away. I had heard about the internship through one of my mentors, David Barclay. He had noticed that I had this thing for photography, for taking pictures of him. He's always laughing because I'm taking pictures of him, posting them on my photography page. He had heard about this position, and you know what? Get it. Before I found ARC, I was shocked. I was fearful where I was gonna end up. Now I have an internship here. I get paid to do something that I never thought I would want to experience. I feel loved, for sure. I feel loved. What I'm most excited about for next year is just to see how much more I progress, because I've changed a lot. I've made a lot of, what's the word? I don't want to use progression anymore. I just want to see how much further I could get next year. I was coming here, you know.
Okay. Rob, you guys are muted again.
How's that?
There we go. We can hear you.
All right, great, thank you. So that gives you a little taste. Clarissa actually just wrapped up her year-long internship here, and the things that she talks about that she learned and the supports. One of the things we love about our space here in Los Angeles is it's a big welcoming space. And we encourage people, anyone who is incarcerated, their families, to come here to take part in our programming. So I wanted Carlos and Pam to talk a bit about sort of the work that we do with members in our community.
So my name is Pam. I'm formerly incarcerated myself, so I know the struggle coming home from incarceration. And so giving them the support that they need to make their re-entry successful that's what we do. We meet them where they at. If they need housing, resources, enroll in school, employment, that's what we there for, to guide them every step of the way. Most of them are long-termers coming home, so they don't have a lot of family left, and that's what we're here for, to be that support and that family for them. We are very protective of our members, so we want them to come here and feel like this is a safe space for them. So talking about PREA, it hits home for me because when I was incarcerated, they used PREA in the wrong way. It wasn't towards staff, but the peers would use it on themselves if they was mad at each other. And that's the thing that I didn't like about PREA inside. Instead of doing the full investigation, they would just lock that individual up and then do the investigation. But by that time, the person had lost everything that they worked hard for. This could be a lifer, long-termer that worked hard to get to where they at, and they have an individual that hate on them and call PREA on them. And so if we experience that, if one of our members experience any type of sexual harassment, we take the time to hear both sides and get to the bottom of it, because we want everybody to feel safe in here. And then I'm gonna pass it to my colleague, my supervisor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carlos Cervantes, long-term ARC staff member. One of the particular things that we focus on also is transportation. So our Ride Home program provides a safe and reliable transportation from institutions to home. We actually welcome people back to their community. We take them to their first meals. We take them shopping for essentials, clothing, hygiene, toiletries, a cell phone, and we keep them safe and we keep the public safe. And one of the things that we focus on is those vulnerable communities. For instance, long-termers, people that have spent 15, 20, 25 years incarcerated, coming into a whole new world, a culture clash. Women, right? They're more sustainable to violations. They're more vulnerable as they're coming out. And also the LGBTQIA community. All communities in which, for us, we welcome with open hands, open arms. We welcome with an open heart to make sure that they're safe. So please, if you have this resource available, this resource is available to all 31 institutions in the state, ranging from Pelican Bay State Prison to High Desert State Prison to Ironwood State Prison to the Mexico border, RJ Donovan, and some local institutions here. We picked up individuals from the Linwood Women's Institution and the Men's Central Jail and the Twin Towers. So please reach out to us if you feel like you have participants that need, that safe and reliable transportation, where they're not going to be judged, where they're going to be treated with compassion and respect. So we thank you all for this opportunity to share what ARC is all about and what we have to offer. We're again here in Echo Park. So please, if any of you would also like to come visit us, reach out to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carlos. And just one last thing to wrap up. One of the things, as I mentioned, Scott Budnick is our founder. Scott is a movie producer. And the way that we tell stories about people with lived experience in carceral systems is essential to what we do at ARC. So we also have a full production studio and soundstage that we're in the process of building out. And we invite community members to come tell their stories. If they want to do podcasts or recordings or be interviewed, things like that, or make a short film, we invite people to come use this resource, certainly free of charge. So thank you all very much. Again, our apologies for the technical glitches, but I'm glad we got to talk a bit about the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. Thank you. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Robin team. Yes, we had to work through technical issues, but we were able to persevere here. So now has come to the time we want to hear from you. I'm going to turn it over to Tracy with the Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission to explain the public comment process. It's not just on this call, there are also other avenues to present. Tracy?
Thank you, Tyson. Yes, at this time, we would like to open it up for those individuals that would like to make public comment. But before we do, those individuals that would like to make a written public comment, you may submit them to preathm@lasd.org. Written correspondence submitted before 5 p.m. today shall become part of the official record. Public comments today are limited to those who have lived experience with the carceral system and or are survivors of sexual assault in the county jail system. Comments shall be focused on the creation of safer reporting spaces and practices and accountability in Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department facilities. Attendees will have an opportunity to speak via WebEx by raising your hand in the WebEx environment or by pressing *3 on your phone. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak to provide your public comment. Please note, we may have to adjust your allotted time depending on the number of individuals who have public comment. At this time, we'll open it up to our public comments. Thank you.
So to repeat, anyone who would like to provide public comment, please use the raise your hand feature here on WebEx.
We will also make a notation in the chat for individuals to remind them that you have the opportunity at this point to raise your hand to make a public comment in the WebEx environment.
So I don't see hands, but we'll give it a few more seconds because I'm not used to WebEx, so WebEx can be complicated. So I'm sure it's complicated for you all too, who are wanting to use the raise hand feature.
While we are still waiting for public comments, Tyson, do you have any questions that you might like to open up for your esteemed panelists?
Sure. I would, John, and I would like to ask John, the Assistant Director and PREA Coordinator at the Sheriff's Department. Most of these folks that are on this call that spoke today, the Sheriff's Department works with and has worked with for quite some time. I wanted to just kind of open it up for John briefly to kind of talk about how the Sheriff's Department interacts with some of the agencies that have presented today.
Sure, Tyson. Well, I'm so glad that we've had this opportunity because of this, I've been introduced to some new community-based organizations. But in my time here, we have and do work with Peace Over Violence and Just Detention International. As y'all saw, the video that was produced, one of the first things that we did when I came on board. So we're always looking for any partnerships that we can have with the community-based organizations. And I can tell you that we and I will be getting back with some of the people that spoke, particularly those that have had experiences, because I think any information that we can garner from that, that's the purpose of this town hall. So hope that answers your question.
Thank you, John. And I also wanted to highlight as well that we had this town hall. This is not the end of the transparency of PREA compliance and PREA implementation. As the co-vice chair, Luis S. Garcia mentioned, the Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission regularly asks for updates from the Sheriff's Department on PREA implementation and PREA statistics. So I wanted to just highlight that for everyone, that will be a regular feature, not every meeting, right? But it's going to be regular throughout the years, where the PREA team will be able to update. And I think we'll hear a little bit more from the co-vice chair of the COC.
Yes, thank you, Tyler. Because one of the areas as well, and that was highlighted in our recent commission meeting, that was from Mr. Barkley's report, was given the statistics with staff to inmate allegations, continues to remain zero sustained findings in the past year, and I think that dates back at least my research until 2021, as far back. And I think we can glean from that statistical data that there is some barriers existing in reaching a sustained outcome. And one of the questions I have and is that the path to getting a sustained finding, there's an overlap with, I think, the LASD disciplinary process, because if a DA reject happens on a case, then does that get the victim is going to be left with that outcome and need support. So I think there's a lot of areas from an oversight perspective that I'd like to take back to our commission and answer some of these questions in future commission meetings.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to remind those that are attending that you can use the raise hand feature down at the bottom of your WebEx screen if you would like to provide public comment. I also wanted to indicate that your camera will not be on, and that any name that you'll be referred to by the name that you have chosen to display here, to allow for you to talk freely without folks seeing you or knowing your name if you don't want that. So I wanted to be able to reiterate that. So now I do have another question for our panel, and I'll open it up to anyone who would like to speak. You can come off camera, raise your hand. If no one does, I will start calling on people. So just be forewarned. What I would like to kind of know is that the Sheriff's Department has been working to implement PREA for a long time now and has been making great strides in its implementation. Some of our partners that have presented today have helped with that implementation. And I'd really like to hear from those folks to see, as you have been working with the Sheriff's Department and the incarcerated survivors in and out of custody, some of the improvements that you have seen at the jails here with PREA implementation in the recent future or the recent past. okay, I guess that's my time to call on people. So I would love to hear, Linda, you and I have known each other for quite some time now. And I would love to hear just kind of your thoughts on where PREA is moving at the Sheriff's Department. You have worked with many people with the Sheriff's Department over the years and many different folks that have been helping work on PREA implementation. And I would love to just kind of hear generally your thoughts on where they have come and where they're going.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Tyson. And I should be clear that it's been several years since JDI has been sort of directly involved in any kind of deep sort of assessment or work to where I would know like what's happening now. So I want to be really clear about that. But I will say that, you know, in hearing what Sheriff's Department staff said and what Yvette shared about the peace over violence services and, you know, what we've worked with to help those services get set up. I think, you know, what I hear is that a lot of the infrastructure that needs to be in place, you know, has been built, that there are sergeants now at the PREA office who are charged with helping to implement PREA, that, you know, just this kind of transparency, the starting of trauma-informed services. Yvette mentioned a group a month at a couple of different units. That is all, I think that's all really important. It sounds like, you know, there are reporting mechanisms, there are policies in place. So it just, what it sounds to me like is that the infrastructure is really there. And I think what is the, you know, next, right? And what is the real challenge is, as I said in my comments, is, okay, taking all of that infrastructure and those policies and making sure that the culture supports them being implemented in the way that will really make change. I mean, the vet shared feedback from their clients, right, around, yeah, the hotline's available, but can I actually have a meaningful conversation with a rape crisis counselor on that phone? And I realize there's, you know, there are barriers and limitations within just the physical body, like the physical structure rather of the jail. But still, I think to look at that, right? Are there solutions? Perhaps there are solutions. Or in terms of reporting, that if people see that either nothing happens or someone's life gets worse because of retaliation from either other residents or from staff, then that chills reporting for everybody who witnesses that. So what is the culture around that? What's next around making it possible and comfortable for staff to report when they observe something going wrong? I mean, my colleague Layla shared, for example, about their intake process. And I realized it wasn't at LA County Jail, but so I'm just using that as an example. But what could others have observed that someone could have stepped in and helped and done something differently, right? Sometimes if you're in a situation, it's harder for you to see what might be going on. And that's where bystander intervention work becomes really powerful, because looking from the outside, you might be able to say, hey, this dynamic needs to be broken up, right? So I guess I would say from what from what I've heard today and in some of the conversations I've had, it sounds like, yeah, the infrastructure that we were working on just starting all of those years ago, Tyson, really has been built. And so then the question is, what's next, right?
Whoops. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that. And one thing I think that's important through this work that I have done and my education working with the Sheriff's Department and Probation Department, and with Linda's team at JDI, is what is sexual abuse? What is sexual assault? You know, when you hear that word, you know, it brings violence to the forefront, and sexual assault and sexual abuse does not always mean violence has happened. Consent is a huge part of sexual abuse and sexual assault. And that is something as well, that educating people that you have to consent to that act and to understand that being forced or coerced into a sexual act is sexual assault. And that is very important, I think, in the work in an incarcerated area. Linda, I know you've traveled the world working on this, and I've been amazed as I've learned more about this, talked to survivors, talked to people that are incarcerated, that's almost new to them. They didn't realize that, oh my gosh, actually, while I was incarcerated, I was sexually abused. And I think that's incredibly important in the education of the inmates, but also staff, recognizing that in the signs as well. Because we're not always talking about staff on the incarcerated individuals. It can happen with the power dynamics of the folks that are incarcerated as well. And it as you mentioned, the bystander intervention is, that's what we want to train our staff on. That is what we also want to train everyone that comes in and works with the population in our jails to understand, to recognize that and to understand there are many different degrees, many different ways someone can be sexually abused, and not taking away from any degree. The trauma is there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point, Tyson, that in terms of education and understanding the dynamics, that, yeah, it doesn't necessarily look like it does, in the movies, right? It's not necessarily what we think of as a gang rape or a violent beating, and that the power dynamics within a detention environment between staff and incarcerated folks, and also between residents, can be such that no threat is needed in order for the perpetrator to accomplish the abuse, right? That survivors sometimes, that the threat of the possible violence or possible loss of freedom or possible messing up of their case or other, sort of consequences, losses of privilege, losses of safety within a unit, really can be enough. And that honestly makes sexual abuse investigations sometimes quite complicated, right? Because they may not be the kind of evidence that I think we're sort of accustomed to thinking about looking for. And so it really is a lot about culture and dynamics and communication and training, and accountability, as it's said in the motion.
Yes. And the importance that PREA requires, and the Sheriff's Department did mention in their presentation a little bit about training of staff and training. There's the training of staff that are doing line supervision, but there's also very tailored training for investigative staff. As you said, Linda, that sexual assault investigations on the outside are different from on the inside. And PREA makes that distinction and requires that there be specific training for the investigative staff on sexual assault in a confined setting.
Yes.
One of the things I also wanted to highlight as well, Yvette, if you wanted to highlight more, you can as well, but I won't force you to or make you come off camera to discuss. But unfortunately, in our society, there is a lot of historical sexual abuse that has happened to folks. The services that Yvette talked about and our panelists talked about today are available to you and to our family members incarcerated and not incarcerated that are out of custody for traumas that have happened decades ago in the past. We have provided this education and are doing it because, PREA requires us to make sure the residents in the jails know that this service of a rape crisis treatment is available for, God forbid, if something had just happened to them. But Yvette, your service, folks can call you to discuss decades ago trauma, and I think that's very important to highlight for folks, that if you have loved ones that are struggling with something that has happened to them, not recent, but decades ago, years ago, months ago, before they came in, that they can still use this service and call the Rape Crisis Center. I don't know if Yvette, you wanted to add any more to that, but I thought that was important to kind of highlight for everyone.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Tyson, that's very important to highlight. I think the concept behind PREA also includes any historical abuse of sexual violence. It's not something that just recently happened, but just any previous trauma. And yes, we're absolutely, all the local rape crisis centers in LA County have individual hotline services where community members can reach out to based on their lived experience, sexual trauma. If there is a sick other loved one who is also seeking ways to support their loved one and maybe guide them through the process of maybe reporting. You don't have to report if they don't want to, but just need that emotional support. Local rape crisis like Peace Over Violence, Strength United, East LA Women's Center, Project Sister are available to provide support services for free, and as well as counseling, case management, advocacy with assistance in reporting. There's so much resources and so much support out there that many people are not aware of. And we really do want to encourage survivors at their time when they're ready to reach out to these services. I also want to just go back to the question you had about the progress that's been made. I think that I want to kind of acknowledge John Barkley. Definitely has been a tremendous advocate in making sure that he's connecting with local resources and, you know, having us be part of this whole support system. And I know John works tirelessly to make sure that there's good systems and good practices in place. But I do want to say that there's still a lot of work to be done, and to be honest. And I think that Linda mentioned the infrastructure. The infrastructure has been attempted to be set up so many times. And I think I worked with you, Tyson, for so many years, and we've had bumps along the way. But I really, truly believe that infrastructure without funding is not sustainable. And these rape crisis centers, along with all these providers, need to have there needs to be some funding dedicated to train deputies to provide these services to community and incarcerated folks, to be able to support along the way as much as we can, so that we could make sure that we're helping people heal through these processes. So thank you for highlighting that. And I think that if we are able to create a stronger infrastructure, especially in the concept of having advocates respond to a SART exam, a sexual assault exam, for evidence collection, that is an area personally that I feel like it still needs a lot of work, that advocates should be able to support survivors through that process and explain the process. But I know that LASD has been working tirelessly to ensure that these practices are set in place.
Yes, and on that point, Yvette, the sexual assault, just so folks are aware, does not occur while you're incarcerated. It needs to be done by someone who's specially trained. And so you are taken off site. And what she means by the advocate is that an advocate from a local rape crisis center can meet that survivor at the exam site, the hospital or the exam site, to provide immediate advocacy, immediate kind of treatment, almost, to use that word broadly, to basically just be there as an advocate for that survivor, regardless that once they're done, they return to the jail.
Correct.
Yes, that they have that resource. PREA allows that to occur. So I know we're coming near the end, and I appreciate the folks taking my spontaneous questions that they did not prep for. I just wanted to remind folks that are attending that if you do want to provide public comment, please press the raise your hand feature at the bottom of the screen. Also, earlier we did show the QR code, and so you can still provide feedback via the QR code as well. And Tracy did give the email in which you can provide written public comment. I'll give that to you again. It's PREA, PREATHM. So PREA THM. That's Tom. Geez, I'm struggling here. Tom Hat Matt THM at lasd.org. And as Tracy did mention, if it's sent before 5 p.m. tonight, it will become part of the public record that the COC does archive onto their website. Okay. At this time, Tracy, I don't see any hands raised, but I don't know if do I see that, or is it only being seen by you?
There are no hands raised at this time. We will ask one last time. If there are any public comments, if you can raise your hand in WebEx. We have a couple more minutes that we can allow for public comments.
Thank you, Tracy. So we'll give a few more moments there for you to raise your hand, and then maybe in about 30 seconds, we'll turn to our closing remarks.
We have no hands raised. I turn it back over to you, Tyson. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. So we will hear closing remarks today from Commander Garcia. I know that we're about to share a screen here that's going to pop up. Okay, Commander Garcia, go ahead, take it away.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. First of all, I'd like to start with a thank you. So I'd like to thank the Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission for all their work and collaboration on putting this town hall together. I'd like to thank the Office of Violence Prevention, LA County, JDI, Center for Health Justice, the Young Women's Freedom Center, ARC, Sister Warriors, and Peace Over Violence for all the important work that they do with us here at the Sheriff's Department. In closing, I'd like to say that LASD's commitment to PREA compliance and survivor safety is key. We have our folks, as stated earlier, that work so hard and are dedicated to really taking every allegation that's brought forward serious, undertaking and understanding the impact of the violation that is being alleged, and really doing a thorough investigation and dealing with the outcomes, whatever they may be, and moving that forward. But we won't stop. We're going to continue to see if there's things that need to be updated, and also to figure out any prevention measures that need to be immediately implemented as well. So with that, I want to thank you. Our commitment that was spoken about, what we're going to do with this town hall is we're going to take a summary of any recommendations, whether we got them in this town hall meeting or they come in afterwards and in other conversations that may take place. And we'll provide a report back to the Board of Supervisors within 60 days and the feedback. And we'll take that feedback and include it in our semi-annual PREA compliance update that's reported out. So thank you all once again. And thank you, Tyson. I didn't want to forget you, but thank you for coming with us on this journey of this town hall meeting and really doing an amazing job. And we truly appreciate you and your work with us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commander Garcia. So I just want to thank all of the panelists and all the attendees that have listened today. I want to thank Melissa, our ASL interpreter, for doing hard work throughout this meeting, for most of the time being the only person consistently on camera, which is never fun in these long meetings. So again, the email that you can provide written public comment is PREATHM@lasd.org. There is also the QR code that you can provide feedback as well. So I want to thank everyone and wish everyone a happy Tuesday. Thank you.